Okay, when I say the word mermaid, what pops into your head? Probably something straight out of a storybook, right? A beautiful, mythical creature. But what if? What if that's not the whole story? Not even close. Today, we're diving into a source that paints a totally different picture, one that's, well, a lot more technological. So let's get right into it.
So, on one side, you have the fairy tale creature we all know, but on the other, our source material calls them biological aquatic hardware. I mean, just listen to that phrase. It completely swaps out fantasy for function. It screams purpose, design, technology. And that right there, that's the core idea we're going to be unpacking today.
And we're not just talking about a simple redefinition of an old legend. No, this text we're looking at claims these beings are a fundamental and hidden component of our planet's entire operating system. It's a massive claim. And here it is, the central claim, pulled straight from the source. It's a bold statement that just reframes everything we might think we know. So the big question is, what in the world does biological aquatic hardware actually mean in this context?
Okay, so to get our heads around that, we've got to look at where they come from and what they do. The source lays out this completely alternate biology for these beings, which, by the way, it calls the sirens of the deep.
So first up, their origin story. The text talks about a human cetus lineage. Now, cetus refers to whales and dolphins, so it's suggesting a shared ancestry between humans and cetaceans. And apparently this was all possible back when something called the ancient canopy was functional. The source kind of describes this as a different kind of atmosphere that made moving between land and water totally seamless. And you know what? It gets even wilder from there. Let's talk about how they breathe. It's not about conventional gills pulling oxygen from water. The source calls them gills of light. The idea is that they absorb light energy directly from the water's crystalline structure. So we're talking about a biology that runs on frequency and light, not just oxygen. Pretty out there, right?
And of course, this whole reinterpretation has to include the famous mermaid's song. Forget about luring sailors to their doom. The source says it's actually sonar frequency calibration. Basically, they use their voices, their songs, to stabilize what are called the ocean floor's cymatic patterns. You can think of cymatics as the geometric patterns that sound vibrations create. So according to this, their singing is literally what keeps the ground beneath the ocean stable. It's a planetary maintenance job.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, if any of this is even remotely true, why don't we know about it? And that's a great question. This brings us to the next huge piece of this puzzle from the source material, the idea of a deliberate cover-up, a historical event it calls the Great 1800s Reset. The source is really specific here, pointing a finger directly at the 1800s as this critical turning point. It claims that before this reset, the relationship between land and sea was totally different. But then this Great Sea Reset happens, and it's supposedly an engineered event designed to change everything, to completely alter how we see the oceans. So the big question is, why?
Well, according to this text, the motivation was simple: fear. The whole goal was to make the ocean seem terrifying and empty. The source says this was orchestrated by a group it calls the Vipers. And their supposed reason? To keep humanity from exploring too far out, to keep us from ever reaching a massive geographic barrier it refers to as the ice wall. And the source even lays out their alleged two-step plan. Step 1, rebrand the Guardians. You take these incredibly important beings and you turn them into either scary sea monsters or, just silly little fairy tales nobody takes seriously. Step 2, create a cover story. The source calls this cover story a dull code and claims it's the very foundation of modern marine biology, an entire field of science designed just to control the narrative.
We've all heard this a million times, right? That we've only explored about 5% of our oceans. Mainstream science says it all the time to get us excited about how much more there is to discover down there.
But this source, it flips that completely on its head. It claims that 5% figure isn't about what we don't know, it's a number used to hide what's really in the other 95%. And what's in there? A thriving, high-frequency civilization. So in this view, that feeling of emptiness we get when we look at the ocean, that's the cover story.
So this begs the question, right? If these sirens are guardians, what on earth are they guarding in the secrets of the deep? And I can tell you, according to this text, it's not sunken chests of pirate gold.
The real treasure, it claims, is architectural. We're talking perfectly preserved star forts. Those incredible star-shaped forts we see all over the world. The source says they're down there, along with entire silicon cities, and it argues they weren't just sunk in some battle, they were submerged during these huge geological shifts it calls the mud flood.
So the treasure here isn't money or gold in the way we think about it. The real gold is the knowledge. It's the living technology and the physical, architectural proof of a lost world, and it's all just sitting down there, perfectly preserved under the sea.
And all of this, the bizarre biology, the massive alleged cover-up, the incredible hidden treasure, it all builds to what the source claims is their ultimate, final purpose: to be the guardians of lost memory.
And this is really the heart of it. The source defines their ultimate role as librarians of the deep. Think about that. They're not just guarding places. They are holding the fluid memory of humanity's forgotten history. The text actually says they are waiting for a group it calls the nomads to emerge, people who can supposedly tap into this memory to help the rest of us finally remember who we really are.
And that's where this source material leaves us, with this really provocative final thought. It paints a picture of a world hidden in plain sight, a history locked away in the ocean, and these guardians just waiting. According to this text, the librarians are ready. The only question left is, are we? Is humanity ready to remember?